Hello, this is Shannon Hare, and this is my second attempt at creating a video for Prime Microschools because evidently the first one had no sound, so I apologize for that. I'm having technical difficulties on my computer and the microphone doesn't seem to be working, so I'm trying this from my phone. So you want to know a little bit about kind of me and my background. I'm a single mom of 3 kids, ages 11, they are twins, and a 9-year-old. So I travel a lot back and forth to different schools and where they go and all their activities, but would love to get them kind of all in the same location at some point. My background is actually in education. History and government was my degree, but secondary education. So I was supposed to be a high school history teacher, and I grew up in the Midwest in Kansas. And if you didn't know, high school history teacher also means head football coach. So because I wasn't always a head football coach, that job was harder to find. But I also got into, out of college, a different job in pharmaceuticals sales for a good 15, 20 years and did that job all the way kind of up through COVID and different things, which brought me here to South Florida. I have been in the Plantation, Broward County area for 23 years now, since 2001. I moved in Florida in 1999. I was originally on the West Coast for a few years, then moved over to the Fort Lauderdale area and all of its suburbs. After being going through a layoff within the pharmaceutical industry, kind of pre-COVID or right at COVID time, and then we had the COVID home teaching, I saw my kids and I taught them through that time while they were on the computer, and had to deal with the struggles of teaching them from the computer at different levels, and also seeing kind of the fun things that I got to do with them, that it was a less stressful day. We didn't have to wake up at the crack of dawn to run off to a school and sit there for 8 hours. We had other activities that we got to do and things throughout the day where it would take us out of the house to go exploring and bike riding and everything else. I also noticed when I was teaching that my daughter, who is now 11, I noticed her reading disability. And I kind of had suspicions while she was in preschool, but it was confirmed more when I was able to sit with her and watch her read and struggle, especially through the computer, but really struggle. So by the time I got her back into public school, probably within the next, 6 months, as a first grader, she got an IEP, which in Broward County isn't always easy to get an IEP that early. And the reason I say this is because I know and lived it firsthand, because after she got into the school and back into school, I was able to start substitute teaching at their school. On the very first day we were back after the full year, and we had just started after COVID, and I started substitute teaching, and within 2 months I was actually asked to take over a classroom because a teacher had left. And so I took over a kindergarten, first grade classroom and saw all the different levels of reading specifically and learning specifically. But because the school they were at, even though it's a public school, is a Montessori magnet school. And so a lot of how we taught, while we had to teach to the Florida standards, we also used Montessori tools, and it was more of a hands-on program. And I got to do things kind of differently, the way that I had felt were better, because my kids had grown up in Montessori preschool. I had seen hands-on how using your hands and tactile things were so much better for them than just a piece of paper or a computer or things like that. But I also saw every level of kid that would come in. I saw kids that would come in, very young kindergartners, and then I also saw kids in my class that were on the older edge of first grade. And I taught all those levels throughout that particular block of the day, and learned how to kind of manage kids throughout the day and teach to certain small groups, but then also be able to teach kids maybe a little bit ahead of themselves, because I was teaching first grade, but the kindergartners were listening, so they got to hear those things and then pick up on it and actually catch on a little bit sooner than maybe in a traditional kindergarten classroom. So I did get to see that, but then I saw the struggles of kids that just couldn't get it. And where public school fails kids is the kids that have true disabilities. There's just not enough resources to take care of certain kids, and especially my daughter. So we ended up moving her to a private school. now that I know what micro schools are, I might think this might be a micro school. It's not defined as one, I guess. It's Salt Academy in Boca Raton, and that's where she's been for the last 2 years, and she's been able to flourish with her reading and everything else and just see her blossom because it's very tailored to what she needs. It's very small group, small oriented. They get to do different projects throughout the year that build on what they know, and a project is what's so fun about teaching kids because you can learn math, reading, history, science, all with one kind of group project that you learn. You don't have to silo it into math and reading and science, and that's the only thing you get to learn while you do it. So it's so fun to do those kinds of things, and I liked doing those kinds of things when I was in my class in the Montessori school. But because I moved my daughter and she was so far away, and because I'm a single mom, I had to move to a more traditional public school in Boca Raton, and I taught there for a year. In a very traditional third grade classroom, and watched kids have to be taught a very strict curriculum, some that don't fit into that mold, and you just could see it happening is right in front of your faces. And then I really had to teach to tests. I mean, there wasn't a week that didn't go by that I don't think that I gave them some sort of test, assessment, not to mention even the state tests and the iReady and all of the diagnostics that we took. And when it finally came down to it, third grade is where students are held back if they don't pass the FAST test. And that pressure on them was so intense, especially for some of my struggling readers who may or may not have been getting services or hadn't been, kind of just slipped through the cracks in their skills. The panic, just the sheer stress of it was so disheartening. So basically when that kind of ended and I knew my daughter would be okay and I needed to find something different, I resigned my position at that public school. I couldn't teach that way anymore. I wanted something new. I wanted something different. I didn't know about Primer. I was approached, so I'm kind of excited to kind of look into it. There's still questions that I have, obviously, because I don't know what I don't know, but it is very exciting. I have a good network of people in the Plantation area, in the Coral Springs, Parkland, Boca area, kind of all of them. My boys play sports up in the Boca Parkland area. We go to school in Fort Lauderdale and we live in Plantation. So we kind of have a lot of the county covered. I have a lot of friends that have kids that are not thrilled with their options and looking for alternatives to different schooling, not knowing what micro schools are, but my thought process when I was looking for schools was just I'd have to go private, but I just couldn't afford private as a single mom. So some of those things are things that I'm considering when I look at this school and who might benefit from it. Obviously, I would love to get all three of my kids under the same roof and kind of have them do the things that I think they could be really good at. I am hearing now that my boys are, even though they love their school, they're getting bored. You know, it's the same routine. It's a lot of classroom management sometimes. Sometimes there's extra classroom management that has to be dealt with in different schools. So learning gets put to the side when you have to deal with certain things like that. But I am excited and hope to kind of take this journey and see where it leads. All right, thank you very much.